It's my honor today to present this proclamation with County Executive Elrich for Human Rights Day. Human Rights Day is observed every year on December 10th since 1948, the year that the UN General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UDHR. The UDHR is a milestone document that proclaims the inalienable rights which everyone's entitled to as a human being, regardless of race, color, religion, sex, language, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Available in more than 500 languages, it's the most translated document in the world. The UN's theme this year was Recover Better, Stand Up for Human Rights. The COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted long-standing and wide-ranging inequities in our own community and across the nation. In Montgomery County, we've been steadfast in our efforts to reach the most vulnerable in our communities and to ensure they have the resources and the support that they need. On International Human Rights Day, we recommit ourselves to protecting and promoting the rights of our vulnerable populations, particularly those who have been hardest hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'll now recognize the county executive to speak and read the proclamation. Welcome, Mark.
Hey, thank you. I want to start with a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. At the beginning of this human rights, the Declaration of Human Rights, when she was instrumental in bringing about, she said this: "Where, after all, do universal human rights begin? In small places, close to home, so close and so small they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. Lest these rights have meaning, they have little meaning anywhere. If they don't have meaning there, they don't have little meaning anywhere. Without concerted citizen action to uphold them close to home, we shall look in vain for progress in the larger world." That was Eleanor Roosevelt. So while we see examples every day of egregious violations of human rights, they occur literally every day and pretty much everywhere. While we often think of terror, suppression of free speech and personal expression, human slavery, forced resettlement, and many other ways of repressing people's rights, we ourselves are not without fault. We have hungry people here who struggle, even when there's not a pandemic, to put food on the table. If you've ever visited a homeless shelter in Montgomery County, you've probably met people who work every day and still can't put a roof over their head. We have people who are limited access to health care and other social assistance programs because of one's immigration status, as if one's immigration status somehow can justify denial of access to basic human services. And let's not forget children separated from their parents and put in cages. These things happen abroad and these things happen here. In the midst of the pandemic, we are focused on the most basic human rights for our residents: the right to a roof over our heads and food for our families and ourselves. International Human Rights Day is an important moment to remember that these are basic rights, and we are going to recommit ourselves to ensuring them for all. So I'm happy to join you, Mr. President, and the council in sharing this day for the residents of Montgomery County. It's an important day. We always have to remember this is not just an opportunity to look abroad and point out the things we see in the headlines and the news, but to look within ourselves and within our communities at things that ought to make us uncomfortable and ought to charge us with the energy to change those things that we have the ability to change. So thank you.
Thank you. We've been joined by Director Stowe. Director Stowe, do you have any comments you want to add?
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning to all of you. Just to echo and just underscore what the county executive has said, this Universal Declaration of Human Rights contained 30 different articles, and the one for which buttressed to the ongoing core values of our community is stated thusly: all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act toward one another in a spirit of brotherhood. To county council and members of our community, all across America and indeed the entire world, today is being recognized by those who have governing occasions to come together to proclaim this coming Thursday, December 10th, as a day that we all signal that human rights are indeed rights that are inalienable, that cannot be taken away, that ought to be the core value of all of us. And I believe it's best said by Martin Luther King Jr., injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And lastly, one of my, I guess, my real heroes, Nelson Mandela. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not fear, but he who has conquered fear. And oftentimes the fear we have between one another is not knowing each other. And so our goal this year would be then to go forward and to know one another better, lift up our neighbors in this time of strife and sickness and uncertainty. Human Rights Day, Montgomery County.
Thank you, Director Stowe. Mr. County Executive, I think you have the proclamation, if you want to read it.
I think I do. These unnecessary things out of here. Proclamation, Montgomery County, Maryland. Whereas on December 10th, 1948, the General Assembly of the United Nations approved the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, declaring that, quote, recognition of inherent dignity and of the equal and unalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. And whereas basic human rights addressed in the Universal Declaration include economic, social, and cultural rights, as well as civil and political rights. And whereas this year's theme is Recover Better, Stand Up for Human Rights. We believe every resident of Montgomery County must play a role in advancing human rights as we seek to recover not only from the crippling effects of a viral pandemic, but also from the deepening poverty, growing inequalities, and structural and entrenched racism. In doing so, we move forward toward full recovery and begin the building back a better community. And whereas Montgomery County government, its Office of Human Rights, its Human Rights Commission, and its Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice, along with numerous communities, civic, religious, and nonprofit organizations, have a commitment to ensure equal rights and protection for all residents. Now, therefore, do we, Mark Elrich as County Executive and Tom Hucker as County Council President of Montgomery County, Maryland, do hereby proclaim Thursday, December 10th, 2020 as International Human Rights Day in Montgomery County, and call upon our residents to join in recognizing the important work to preserve and protect human rights in our community and aid in shaping the peace here in our county, our state, our country, and around the world. Signed this day, the 8th of December of the year 2020, Mark Elrich and Tom Hucker.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. County Executive.
Thank you.